Praise the Lord. Yeah, I was 19 years old and sleeping, and I had a dream, and that dream was end times related. And I was standing in this long line with numerous other people, and at the beginning of the line, at the head of the line, was Satan, and he was chopping people's head off. And my turn was coming up.
That's not a dream. That's a nightmare.
It was very dramatic. It was very dramatic for me. I wasn't a Christian, and I was doing the things that I wanted to do and living according to the world standard of what was a typical lifestyle for a 19-year-old in California. And but nevertheless, I had this dream, and it was extremely vivid, very real. I saw a girlfriend of mine in the line behind me, so I ran to her, and I said to her, "Whatever you do, do not renounce Jesus, because you may it would be."
You weren't even a Christian.
I wasn't even a Christian, but I knew that somehow, by the grace of God, He was showing me. In that dream, who it is that He had purposed me to be before the foundation of the world. And I was ministering to my girlfriend of not renouncing Christ, that if we get our heads chopped off, it'll be pain for a little while, but then we'll be in the presence of the Lord and we'll live for all eternity. But if we renounce Him, we'll have joy for a little while, but then we're going to die and go to hell. And I said this probably about 6 or 7 times, and then it was my turn to stand before Satan. And in a very coarse voice, he says to me, "Renounce Jesus Christ right now, or else I'm going to chop your head off." And I said, "No, I'm not going to renounce Jesus Christ, because if I do, then I will have peace for a little while, but then I'll die and go to hell. But if I don't, I will stand before Christ." And when I woke up, I could hear, it seemed audible. I'm not sure if it was or wasn't, but to me, I heard in a very clear and a very loud voice, "Leave California now."
And you did?
And I did. I listened. And
wow,
in less than a week.
That was a powerful dream, a powerful nightmare.
It has been, it was a blessing. It was seriously a blessing, because it was God's way of grabbing me at that moment and bringing me out. I have no idea what tomorrow had for me, but what I did know was that He was calling me out, and I'm so very grateful that He did.
So that led to you leaving California, being the first in your family to go to college.
Being the first to go to college.
How on earth did you end up on Wall Street?
I know, again, by the grace of God. I cannot take credit for it at all, but God opened up an opportunity for me.
You just started something that is very important, and I was on a panel of one of them on Israel.
Yes, you were.
The Truth Exchange. What is that about, and why is it?
Truth Exchange, the vision behind Truth Exchange is to engage minds to start thinking critically, to start thinking seriously and decisively about the world around us, and all from a biblical perspective. So without using sophomoric comments or ridicule or even political affiliations, Truth Exchange engages in discussions that are winsome, yet critical of how we're engaging and bantering back and forth. Everyone's asking questions, and by the grace of God, getting engaged.
I was very impressed with the one that I was on, and the quality of people that were on that panel with me. It was amazing. Mrs. Barnette, it's time for you to defend yourself. You have said that all opinions are not equal, and that yours could be more important than some others.
Yeah.
Defend yourself.
I know, right? By the grace of God, and I usually do this with my master level students whenever I'm teaching at the master level, is when on the first day, generally, I explain to them that all opinions are not equal. And that is simply because some opinions are more studied, more scholarly, more researched than others. And we live in a culture today where if you have air in your lungs and you can vocalize sound, then your opinion is just as valid and just as reasonable as anyone else. And that's not true. Hence the reason why we have reality television stars who are given the microphone to weigh in on very important issues that we're contending with.
When their opinion may be absolutely worthless.
It's irrelevant half times, the majority of the time mixed with absolutely no substance whatsoever, and they tend to go down the road of using sophomoric comments to get people to be on their side. But that's the premise. All opinions are not equal. So when they're turning in papers and they're including their input into our discussion, make sure that what you're saying is research, that it's not I think, I feel, well, I believe, but that there's substance behind the opinion you're coming to.
Why do you? It's fine that you believe it, but why do you believe it?
Well, why do you believe it?
What kind of evidence or what kind of basis do you have for believing that?
Because we live, and not only that, but even in the political sphere today, in the media, they dummy things down for us as Americans, and they speak to us from the perspective of emotions. And decisions are being made, very weighty decisions, like Obamacare, for example, is being made based on emotions and appealing to emotions of people.
Anecdotal evidence rather than,
exactly.
than what it's really going to mean. And
what is it really going to mean? And so people begin
And the amazing thing is that when the American public bought in to the idea of, we'll tell you what's in it after it's passed.
Can you believe that?
No, I can't believe it.
I can't believe that. When I heard
that,
Nancy
but
Pelosi,
I thought, are we living in a time
Nancy Pelosi,
that we buy this stuff?
Yes, and we did. Nancy Pelosi said that you first must pass it before you know what's in it. That's ridiculous. That's like you going to work and flipping on a switch in an electrical plant and like we'll know if it worked, or if it blows up, then we know it didn't work. And that's what we're faced with today.
I read a 23-page presentation that you documented incredibly well. As we get started on this, what are your feelings about where we are? And we're going to talk about why and some of the things, decisions that are being made, but where we are today and what needs to happen.
Yeah, in this latest economic report that is now available on our website at truthexchange.net, we start off by asking the question, is America teetering on an economic implosion or a collapse from within? And by all economic measures and from those who sit in a position of surveillance over the U.S. economy, the answer is unequivocally, yes, we are. And we are now on an unsustainable path of spending. When you have a nation that is spending over $1 trillion in deficit a year for the past 4 years, and we will again this year, when you have a nation where our spending has increased over 118% in the past 5 years, interest expense on the debt we're paying is anticipated to go from $400 billion to $900 billion, doubling. That's unsustainable by any economic measure.
So, in fact, in your report, you say that we are roughly 16 times the deficit of Greece.
We are.
And we're a much bigger country.
Much bigger country. But look at what's happening to Greece.
More, but 16 times.
16 times Greece, 7 times Italy, and these are some of the countries. These are the three of the largest countries: Italy, Brazil, and Greece. We hear about them every day in the headlines with all of their financial issues. But the financial virus that is happening in Europe has spread. It's already here in America by all economic measures. The reason why we don't feel it is because of the massive federal spending that is concealing it. And there is no abatement to that spending at all. In February, President Obama said, you can't cut your way into growth, signaling we intend to continue to spend. On this past Friday, Ben Bernanke recommitted to keeping interest rates low to induce more and more spending. And again, it's very important by every economic measure, and we have it highly documented in the report, we are on an unsustainable path of spending. We cannot continue this path and continue to be a sovereign country.
When we come back, but also that a government committee was assigned the responsibility of cutting just $1.7 trillion?
$1.5 trillion.
$1.5 trillion out of a huge, many more trillions of dollars, finally came back and said, we can't do it. I want to talk to you
about. But not only that, American people are over leveraged. Chuck said earlier that if people try to save $1,000, they admitted that they would have a tremendously hard time trying to come up with $1,000 within a 24-hour period. That's because as Americans, we are over leveraged. There's no wiggle room. And that is what makes this discussion that you and I are having today so much more than just an intellectual conversation for me, because it's the reality of the impact that this overspending by our government is going to have on the lives of millions of unsuspecting Americans. They're going to be completely taken by surprise.
What do you mean, taken by surprise?
Well, because we're continuing to spend. We have President Obama said last month when the unemployment numbers came in and they were up 8%. That's the official unemployment number. The real unemployment number is 15%.
The people who are no longer looking for jobs.
Exactly. So the real number is 15%. But the official number crept up to 8%, which is a very bad thing. And he said, don't worry, our best days are ahead of us. Our best days are ahead of us, and that simply is not true. There's no wiggle room. And so we've abdicated our responsibility to be informed, astute American citizens to those who are in Washington, D.C.
But aren't, with that in mind, aren't people more conducive to accepting government control if it can relieve their economic situation?
Well, Wolfgang Schäuble, the finance minister of Germany, said the benefit of a crisis is that it brings people to the conclusion or to the solution faster. And one of the things he was doing.
And the solution there is.
And the solution there is to hand over economic control of every single. There's 27 nations in the EU. What he is wanting, and when I say he, the EU, but for those who are in the know, the EU is a shell for Germany, since Germany is the wealthiest of all the nations there. And so they have a lot of control over what the EU does. And essentially, Germany's mantra is, if you want us to bail you out, Greece, Italy, Spain, Brazil, Netherlands, and on, then you must surrender your economic sovereignty over to us or over to the EU. They got what they really wanted, which is economic sovereignty.
So what does that mean to the United States, and what does it mean to the people who are watching this program tonight?
There is a clarion call from various sources, George Soros, the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, from the People's Bank Governor of China, Zhou Zhou, that the reason we're in this world global recession is because of America having this reserve currency status, which allows us to have unlimited demand for our U.S. dollar, and as a result, we get to go into deficit, very large deficit versus some of the other countries. Right. And 62% of the world uses our U.S. dollar to bolster up the value of their dollar. So they take our dollar, which is supposed to be as good as gold.
Is that good or bad?
It's been good for us over the many years because we reap the benefits of getting things without having to pay for them. The downside to that is that eventually you have to pay for things. And right now, our current account deficit is, as you said earlier, 17 times larger or 16 times larger than Greece. And now people are looking at that, and like I said, those particular people that I named off earlier are saying this is unsustainable. And
China, for example?
China, for example.
Trillions of dollars?
Who has lent us trillions of dollars, but they have also come from a third world country off the back of the U.S. dollar. They've been able to rise from a third world status because of the current monetary system.
What would happen if China said, we don't have confidence in your ability now to get this paid back, so we're not going to lend you anymore?
Well, it would be horrible, not just for America, for the world. I mean, it's important to note that we missed a great recession by a hair of a breath. And we did so because the government threw a massive amount of money at it. And in large respect, we learned a great deal from the Great Depression. You must bail out some organizations, but now we're 5 years after the start of the recession. And in an advanced economy, we're expected to recover within 18 months. It's been 5 years now, and the consumer spending is eroding because we just don't have the money. And baby boomers are now in a new phase of life.
So what does that mean to the average person watching the program
It
tonight?
means to wake up and to recognize the time in which we're living in and recognize that our best days are not ahead of us.
Now, any motivational speaker would say, don't even go there.
Don't even go there. I know, but you know what? I don't profit off of anything that I do. My intent and what I believe my ministry is to wave the banner of truth. And I do not talk from a perspective of emotions, but from a perspective of this is what the truth is. These are facts. And if we have problems with facts, then let's go contend with facts. And so from that perspective, yeah, it's not a motivational speech, except to recognize that now is the time for us to wake up and to begin to prepare ourselves for the inevitable.
Your economic report, tell us how people can get that.
They can go to www.truthexchange.net, and